The start of a new quarter is a great time to take a step back and do some strategic planning for your nonprofit. I personally love planning in 90-day increments because they are so much easier to manage and predict. And today in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to plan your nonprofit's stories and really all of its content for the next 90 days. Grab a pen and paper and let's get into planning. And if you like this video, there is also a tutorial on creating 90-day communications plans that I'll link to just below for you. So the first thing we're going to do is start by getting the 10,000-foot view of what's going on at your nonprofit. I think this is a really important step in the planning process, whether you're looking at your kind of broad communications, your fundraising activities, or even just your story content. You really need to align that with the activities that your organization is doing. So what I like to do to get this 10,000-foot view of what's happening is do what I call a nonprofit activity forecast. This is so helpful, a really key part of this process that will allow you to understand how to strategically align your fundraising, your communications, or your stories with what it is your organization is doing that month or that quarter. So, one of the things that I by doing is asking a couple of key questions to get this information and to help me start dig into this. So, here's the questions that you can ask yourself to do your own nonprofit activity forecast. Start by asking this first question. Do you have a theme or focus for this quarter that you'll want to align some or all of your content with? Let me give you a couple of examples. A theme or a focus for this quarter might be a campaign that you're running. It could be a communications campaign, a fundraising campaign, maybe an awareness event, things of that nature. There might be more than one of those in this quarter. If you're doing more general organizational communications, maybe you have some program enrollment happening. Any of those things might constitute a theme or a focus for that quarter. And it's totally okay if you have more than one, but know that when you have multiple focuses in a quarter, sometimes the workload continues to expand and you'll need to carefully plan how you're going to manage each of those projects or those focuses within your quarter. But essentially, these are anything where you might be communicating externally, where stories will help you do that and help you gain some momentum in your communications or marketing. Next, we're going to get into some more nitty gritty details of that. So if you listed things like, you're trying to raise money for a certain project or a program, you're focused on program enrollment, something like that, we're going to want to start to list the more specific activities in here. So activities and projects and events, initiatives, campaigns that are coming up this quarter. So this is where you can really do a brain dump of all of the exhaustive things that your organization might be doing. You may not need to be doing a ton of storytelling about each of these things. But again, it's really just about getting these ideas down on paper so that you understand what is kind of going on within your organization to make sure it's on your radar. And if you have any additional notes about this quarter, things you want to remember, things that might be happening in the following quarter, write those down as well. You want to make sure you kind of keep those things on your radar so that you can continue to keep track of everything. So as you do this, one of the things that I find that can be really helpful, if you have a calendar you use for big picture planning, whether it's a digital calendar or a wall calendar that you might use in your office, you may want to add these key activities from the forecast to your calendar if they're not already there. So use this opportunity to double check this calendar, make sure all the key information that needs to be there is there. And if it's not, add it into your calendar so that you can visually see what's happening. If you're like me and you're a visual planner, it's really great just to see this stuff at a glance in one place. This is an example of a calendar page that we use in our monthly content planner kit, which I'll link to below if you want to grab a copy of that. So we've got our forecast in place. Now it's time to start thinking about how we're going to communicate around these activities, these campaigns, these focuses. And to do that, we're going to start to drill down into our key messages and our stories. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start by doing a brainstorm. And when I do brainstorms about key messaging and stories where I'm really trying to align the content together, I like to use this table format. Sometimes I'll do it just on a piece of paper and I'll recreate this table. Sometimes I do it in a Word document, but I'll explain to you how this works. So on the left side of the table, I put each key message in a row. So these are key messages that correspond with campaigns or activities that are on my activity forecast. Then on the right side, in the right side column, I will brainstorm stories that can help us communicate that message and get the word out about the campaign, the activity, whatever that might be. For this part of the brainstorm, when you're looking at the story ideas, there's a couple ways to do this. You can totally go into your story library or content bank to reuse past content. If you're afraid to reuse stories or don't do it frequently, I highly encourage you to rethink this. It is a great idea to reuse and recycle your content. You put a lot of energy and effort into what you put together. Try to get some more mileage out of it. You can also factor in new stories that you haven't yet told. So if you have some ideas about stories, new programming, anything like that, this is a great place to do that brain dump and add those things in. Next, we are going to pull all these pieces together into our quarterly story plan. So you've done the messaging and the stories brainstorm, you've done your activity forecast. This is where we can actually plot out your monthly story needs. So this is the matrix I like to use for planning like this that I use with my clients. And I'll just kind of walk you through how I use this so that you might use it as well. Going down the first column in this matrix, we have the months of the quarter listed. So whatever those might be for this particular quarter for you. Then in the following columns, we're going to list out our key activities or campaigns, whatever they might be for you, and their story needs. Right now in this matrix, I have 3 main activities listed for each month of the quarter. You can totally add more columns here if you need to. If you feel like there's more than 3 key activities that month, you may need to add a couple more. So you can definitely modify this to suit your needs. Let me explain to you a little bit about the examples I have in here of activities and story needs, just to show you a bit more about how this works and how you can make it work for your organization. So for example, in month 1, over in the first or the second row down, we have our spring fundraiser. And next to that in parentheses, I put a program participant story. I anticipate wanting to highlight somebody who's been in a particular program that we're featuring in the spring fundraiser. Maybe I already have a specific idea of who that person will be or the actual story. If I knew those details, I would add those in there. If I don't yet know them, I will just put something a little bit more vague, like a program participant story. And then when I drill down into project planning, which we'll talk about next, I'll start to list out the specifics of what it is I need in terms of assets and other content. Below that, as another example, I put in a stewardship campaign that we might run the month after the fundraiser. So here we might feature staff and donor stories to share appreciation and talk about people who have recently donated. So again, these are things that I might need to source. Maybe I have some staff stories that I'll pull from our story bank. But again, this just gives me a really good idea of the stories that are aligning with the activities that we're working on in fundraising and communications. So I hope that gives you an idea of how you can put together a planning matrix like this for your organization. Your next step in this process is to start gathering the assets so that you can actually execute this plan. This is all about where the rubber meets the road. You may need to gather and source your stories. You may need to set up interviews, maybe gather some photo or video content. All of these things can happen in this step of the process. For this part, I find it really helpful to make just a big list of all the content that I need and the steps I need to take to gather that content. So for example, if I know that I need a couple of photos for that program participant story that we talked about, I might write, something on my project plan like email or call the program participant, see if they have photos already they like that they can send to us, or talk to them about setting up a little photo shoot where we can grab a couple of headshots. Those are all examples of tasks that I might list in that project plan so that it can just be really crystal clear to me and anyone else who's working with me what we need to do to get this done. And I find that this is really helpful because it really does give you a project plan or work plan for each month or each quarter so that you know exactly what needs to happen to bring this story plan to life so that you have aligned content with your storytelling, your fundraising, and your communications goals. Now, if you're looking for additional resources to help you plan and tell stories in the next 90 days, I want to invite you to a free on-demand training I offer called Your 3-Step Nonprofit Storytelling Roadmap. Knowing how to find and share these stories is a skill that anyone can learn, and it's an important step in realizing your organization's mission and vision. Whether you're looking to strengthen already existing skills or learn an entirely new skill set, the 3-Step Storytelling Roadmap will cover 3 crucial steps to using storytelling that raises money and awareness. You can find out more just below this video or visit thestorytellingnonprofit.com/free training.